Welcome to the Duncan Cowichan Chamber of Commerce Political Election Candidate Interview Series. Today we're speaking with Eden Haythornthwaite, an independent socialist candidate with deep roots in the Cowichan Valley. Eden has served multiple terms on the Cowichan School Board and has been a lifelong advocate for social justice, equality, and community development. Her platform is centered on worker solidarity, public funding, and addressing social inequalities. Today we'll hear more about her vision for our community and how her policies could impact local businesses and residents. Welcome, Eden.
Hi, Phil. How you doing?
Very well, thanks. All right, to start, let's just talk about business importance. So how do you see the role of business in driving economic growth, and what specific policies would you put forward to create a thriving business environment?
Yeah, we just had this conversation last night at the Downtown Duncan Business Improvement Association, and I was forced to outline my views on this. I'm not one of those people who thinks that business drives much of anything. I think workers do. I explain to people that if they want to thrive, if business wants to thrive, the community has to thrive. I told them a little story about my father, who once said to me, "You can't have poor customers and poor employees and rich customers." You know, and I have two ideas for how businesses could thrive. Well, actually three. First of all, I think they should actively push for more unionization in our communities. There's not a study alive that hasn't proven that unionization raises the standard of living for people. It just simply does. The other thing they should do is they should be defending to the death our public services and demanding full funding, because public services not only provide the services that their community needs to thrive, it also provides meaningful remuneration. Good jobs. People who have good jobs, good union jobs, will be much better customers. The other thing I pointed out was that if they're not worried about the health care going down the tubes, they better start. Because if they want to look south of the border, they will find out that employers down there have to pick up at least half the tab for the public health insurance they have to provide their employees. People here don't. And during the, when we were having the NAFTA discussions, 30 years ago, our medical system was on the table as a subsidy to our employers and workers and had to be considered in that process. That's how important it is. So I think that's my answer.
Excellent answer it is. Speaking of health, let's talk a bit about mental health and the crime and safety that's kind of an issue right now.
Yeah.
Mental health and public safety are growing concerns for businesses, employees, and customers alike. How do you plan to work with law enforcement and community organizations to tackle mental health challenges and ensure the safety of business, their staff, and the public throughout the Cowichan Valley?
Well, the reason we have problems in the valley are poverty and homelessness. Quite frankly, I don't think people wind up on the streets because they're addicts. I think they become addicts because they wind up on the streets. I'm not saying it's like that for everybody. If I were homeless, I would be an addict. I watch how people have to live in the cold and in the misery and in the lack of privacy. So that's just a comment there. Anyway, sorry about that. It seems to me that we need safe consumption sites, absolutely. I'm very disappointed that Premier Eby has sort of kind of tracked back on his decriminalization model. I think that's pandering. And who's he pandering to? The cruelest people, these sort of very regressive ideas about addiction and mental health. That's who he's pandering to. We don't need to criminalize these things because it's not helping. We've been doing it for years. Look at the war against drugs in the United States. Did that work? No, it did not. I think people need safe consumption. They need safe supply. As I said, if you thought that if you walked into the liquor store, every 10th bottle was going to poison you to death, I don't think people would be very happy about it. I don't see why we can't have safe supply. I think that would improve everyone's health. We need good housing. We need good housing. We need housing programs that have constitutional guarantees. There's no point in putting programs in place with one government, then have another government come in and rip them out, because that's what's going to happen to us. You can bet your arse. It's going to be, our dental plan, all these things. Every time a government changes under our system. So what you need is constitutional guarantees.
Okay.
I was just talking to the folks at Clements about that, because they were, anyway. And I think we really have to be a lot kinder. These people are part of our community. They're our kids, they're our siblings, they're our parents. And actually, when I talked to the downtown business people, I went and spoke to a bunch of them before our meeting last night. And I was surprised to find that they had a very I thought progressive view of all these things. I was expecting them to do nothing but bitch, but they didn't. They really didn't. They really want to sort this. So congratulations for that.
All right. Speaking of housing and staffing, there's a new hospital on the way, and finding affordable housing and attracting skilled professionals has become an urgent issue. How would your government address the housing crunch and ensure local businesses and essential services, like healthcare, can hire and retain the staff that they need?
Well, they're not going to be able to hire anybody if, if everybody's, if all of the money that's available to people is going into their rental or their mortgage, there's very little money to spend. There's nothing left, right? But what we need is, we used to have a national housing program 30 years ago. Basically it was degraded through the Cowichan years. We need to return to that. We need to demand that from the federal government. We really do. I don't go along with this idea that we should have these little ghettos of people because we don't want to be with these people, so they got to be over here. Half the time they're using the homeless against us. For every homeless person, there's 1,000 people who are underhoused, poorly housed, paying way too much, living where they don't work, these kinds of things. We have to start paying attention to everyone and accommodating those things. And people who don't have homes, they should be able to live in community in these situations. I think we have to stop asking people who've caused the problems to solve them. Every time we turn around, we're told we have to give more land to developers. Just give them more land, it'll all work out. It does not. They build stuff, even when they say it'll be affordable, it isn't. It has to be mandated, like mandated with consequences.
Okay. Let's talk a bit about the cost of doing business and regulations. Many small and medium business-sized businesses are struggling with rising costs and regulatory pressures. What would you do to ease the tax and regulatory burden on these businesses? Are there any specific relief or incentive programs you have put in place to help them stay competitive?
I must admit I haven't given those things much thought. And I don't know very much about how businesses operate. I did own a restaurant 30 years ago in downtown Duncan for like 2 years. And so I don't think that I would be classified as a successful small business owner. Yes, the people that I spoke to, there's one gentleman talking about the taxes that he was paying on his business. There's a little bit of issue with the rising rental rates. I guess one of the things I would like to have asked last night but didn't get the chance is whether or not a cap on commercial rental properties would be appropriate, as we claim we have on residential, but actual caps on these things. I think we need rent controls, like a lot. And I know that business people hearing that will go, but I think that that would benefit people in the downtown area. The people that I spoke to, they wanted a little bit more, and this might apply to you guys, they want more promotion of Duncan as a nice place to walk around. Drive up from Victoria, walk around, go into some of the little shops, have a bite to eat. And they don't feel that it wasn't like hugely critical, but they felt that that could be improved on, which I agree with. I also think we need more public transit. They were complaining, the one thing they did complain about a lot wasn't security, but was parking. And it was just parking this, parking that, and I get it. If we had better public transportation and more varied public transportation, not just the big buses, I think that people would find stuff would go better.
Okay, let's talk about transportation, like the Island Rail Corridor.
Oh.
So transportation is key to keeping our local economy moving. What is your stance on restoring rail service through the Island Rail Corridor? How do you plan to invest in public transportation and infrastructure to benefit businesses and residents in this region?
Well, when it comes to funding, I always think that we have not gone to the well. We have to start taxing the wealthy. We have to close the loopholes. We have to get rid of corporate welfare. There's corporations in this country, if you look at their profit line, it's basically the same as the subsidy they're getting from the government. We have to stop that so we can apply it to our needs. I would say that the train is a very romantic idea. My husband, who's no longer here, was a real train guy, and he did actually work on some of those little committees. And I would love to have a train. And even though people say, well, we have to tear up the bed, of course we first have to deal with the First Nations claims and everything like that, and maybe that's not going to be possible. I don't know. It'll be up to them. But we're going to have to do a lot of infrastructure there, right? I mean, from what I'm told, the track is useless. So it's going to be expensive, like really expensive. But as I was saying before, it can't possibly be worse than this endless, revamping of our highway system. I mean, we pay hundreds of millions of dollars. And then, 2 years later, they're doing it again because they just added more cars. So let's get some of them off the road. Let's have a nice amenity.
Yeah. And finally, is there anything in general you'd just like to say to the business community in general?
I guess what I'd like to say and emphasize is that everyone in this community needs to thrive. And the business community, it'll just follow. I really believe that. I really do. And the other thing I'd like to say is we need more public engagement between our whole community. We need town halls. We need to be doing what we should have been doing during this election, should be happening all the time. That's what makes this so egregious. We've had no all candidates meetings, we're not talking to each other. There's just been this resistance. And I don't say it's not coming from the business community, but it's coming from elements in that community.
Fair enough. Good. So we're speaking with Eden Haythornthwaite and the Independent Socialist. Thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thanks, Phil.
Right, appreciate it.